Hi guys. I just talked about half an hour, but YouTube tells me that it was too long, so they rejected the video that I had just made. So I'm going to break it down into several episodes. I just want to give you what in the Christian language is called a testimony, because it can maybe help you to find a faith in Jesus, or to help you if you are already a Christian to grow for sure. A testimony is one of the best ways of helping each other when you're a Christian to grow in the faith, to strengthen your faith, because you hear what's really happened in somebody's life, what God has really done for them, not just some theology or some nice words out of the Bible, but you hear what people have experienced. Okay, so I'm going to tell you in the first part. I'm going to jump right in because I don't know how much time they give you before they cut you off. I'm going to go for about 10 minutes. I'm going to tell you that at about 2.5 or 3 years old, my grandmother was rocking me in her arms. She lived next door, and she was caring for me. For some reason, I was over there at her house. I still remember seeing the living room walls that were made out of wood. My grandfather had built that house himself. I guess it was pretty late because my grandfather came out, and I'll tell you why he came out. For some reason I looked up at my grandmother, and I told her I wanted to kill her. I guess I was pretty loud because, like I said, my grandfather came out, and he convinced me in a specific tone of voice that I better be quiet, otherwise, you know, something's going to happen. And he was working at Amoco down there in Texas City. I guess he had night shift, and he was going to have to get up in an hour or so to go to work, and he was needing his sleep. But anyway, that was like the first spiritual experience that I had, because why would a small child tell his loving grandmother that he wanted to kill her? Now, my theory is that I wasn't yet a Christian, and the Bible says the Bible makes it pretty clear that we're born into sin. We're born into this sin nature, okay? Everyone has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Okay, that is in Romans in the New Testament. And maybe the Bible says there's a devil, okay? My theory is that maybe the devil was speaking through me to hurt my grandmother, who was, like she said in her own words, a blood-bought, born-again, Bible-believing Christian. Okay, and she lived her faith, and her husband also, my grandfather. Yeah, you can take it for what it's worth. That happened really. I still remember it. But then at about the same age, I was just walking. I was over at my grandmother's house. They lived next door to us. And I was looking up at her, you know, and she was looking down at me. And she was waving her finger, and she was saying, telling me, "You must be born again. You must be born again." And I didn't understand that, naturally. But these things started at a very young age for me. You know, having to do with the Christian faith, having to do with the Bible, with God. Okay? I'm looking at the clock a little bit. I don't want to do all this for nothing again, you know. I've got to look at my notes a little bit. I've got a lot that happened I'd like to share with you. Yeah, okay, in about the age of 5, I was playing in the sandbox with Matchbox toys, and all of a sudden I got a fear of death, and I imagined what it would be like to be dead, and all I could see was black, just like a black wall in front of me, black, just darkness, and I was scared, and I ran to my mother, who I think is really saved, born again, but she, I guess, trusted her father more to explain that to me, to help me, because he preached sometimes in the church, and I think he led Bible studies, and he lived his faith out also. He was a strong Christian. I went over to him, and she sent me to him, and he put me on his lap, and he said, "Son, you don't have to be afraid of dying. You just got to believe in Jesus, and when you die, then you'll go to be with him in heaven." That satisfied me, and I went back to playing, and everything was good. Okay? I still got a few minutes. Then the next thing, I guess, that influenced me as a child for the Christian faith, for God, was that my mother used to read to me. She took the time, she spent the time with me as I was about 7 years old to read to me out of the, I think it was Eggemeyer's Children's Story Bible. There was big pictures in there, and we talked about the stories, and afterwards I remember I'd ask my mother questions, and one question was, "Mama, is God stronger than the atom bomb?" You know? And she said, "Yeah, he's stronger than the atom bomb." And that comforted me, and everything was good. So I got these influences at a very young age concerning God and his goodness and his strength, and yeah, and how big he was, and so a strange decision, or let's say it doesn't sound like it's direct with God, connected with God directly, but at about the age of 7, I was playing again in my backyard, and with little cars. I still remember the little cars there, dragsters. But all of a sudden, it occurred to me that I wanted to make a decision. I wanted to decide to either be a mischievous boy, a bad boy, or a good boy. And I considered being a mischievous boy, and I said to myself, "Boy, I could have a lot of fun being a mischievous boy, being a bad boy. But if I'm a bad boy, then I've got to suffer the consequences, you know, the hassle of getting in trouble." And excuse me, I've got a cold. So I decided to be a good boy, because I wanted my peace and quiet. You know, I didn't want to have to deal with all that, you know, of getting in trouble and getting punished and so. Okay, what comes next? I was I think 8 years old in the 3rd grade, and we were switching schools. The next year we were going to be in a new school, and back then they gave out awards, and on the last day of school, and I got the first place by American Legion Good Citizenship Award. I won that in the 3rd grade, And I'll just tell you now, I got that again as a runner-up in the 5th grade, and also in the 8th grade. I got runner-up. Every year where we were to change schools, on the last day we got awards, and I just think that was because of God's influence in my life at a very early age that I got these awards, and I thank God and give Him the credit for those. But I didn't understand it at the time, and I didn't necessarily want them at the time, because, you know, when you're a kid, you want to be cool and you want to be everything except a Christian or a good boy. And I didn't really understand it, but I think God was working in my life even back then. You know, and I guess the adults noticed that. Yeah, for example, I'm going to tell you this, and then I'm going to shut off for now, because I don't want this to be rejected because it's too long. At 11 years old, in Little League, they had opening days ceremonies, and there was always a prayer. I don't know if they do that anymore these days, but some coaches came to me, you know, adults came to me and asked me if I give the prayer, the opening day prayer. And I said, yeah, you know, I said, okay. It was a little embarrassing, but I did it anyway. And my cousin, he made fun of me. He said, oh, preacher boy. So the next year, they asked me again to do that. And, you know, I was a little embarrassed. I wanted to be cool and not, you know, preacher boy, or labeled as a good boy or whatever. So I denied, I declined the offer, the invitation. That's the way it is when you're young, you know. So I'm going to stop now, because I want to make sure you're able to hear this, and I'm going to continue in another episode, but okay, thanks.